As Duke reflects on his past, he also feels an urgency to protect the truth of the Apollo missions. With so few moonwalkers still alive, he sees himself as a living witness in an age where doubt spreads easily. When confronted by those who claim the moon landings were staged, his response is simple and steady. He tells them he was there. He describes the risks, the failures, the fear, and the precision required to survive in an environment that wants to kill you. He often reminds people that Apollo was never just about planting a flag. Apollo 16, in particular, played a critical role in advancing lunar science. Duke and Commander John Young deployed the first astronomical observatory ever operated on another world, capturing ultraviolet images of Earth, stars, and distant galaxies that could not be seen from the ground. The mission also returned more than 200 pounds of lunar material, including some of the oldest rocks ever studied. Those samples transformed scientific understanding of the Moon's highlands, revealing that regions once believed to be volcanic were instead shaped by ancient impacts. Instruments aboard the command module mapped the Moon's chemistry in unprecedented detail, laying groundwork that researchers still rely on today. Duke believes Apollo 16's legacy has been overshadowed by drama and spectacle, even though its contributions continue to shape planetary science. While Duke speaks from faith and first-hand experience, others have offered radically different interpretations of the Moon. One of the most controversial figures is Ingo Swann, a man known for his role in the U.S. government's remote viewing experiments during the Cold War. Swann claimed to perceive distant locations using extrasensory perception, participating in classified research at Stanford Research Institute. Swann's most startling claims involved the Moon itself. He alleged that during remote viewing sessions, he observed large structures, artificial lights, and humanoid figures engaged in organized activity. According to his account, these beings became aware of his presence, forcing him to withdraw. He later suggested that the Moon was home to non-human operations and that humanity was being monitored. These claims stand in direct contrast to Duke's lived experience. Where Swann described hidden civilizations, Duke remembers emptiness, danger, and silence. Where Swann saw activity, Duke saw lifeless terrain shaped only by impact and time. Duke rejects such stories outright, viewing them as examples of how easily imagination and belief can drift away from evidence. Now, as humanity prepares to return to the Moon through the Artemis program, Duke supports the effort wholeheartedly. He believes the Moon remains a crucial testing ground for future exploration, not a place of hidden empires or supernatural industry. To him, Apollo was not the end, but the opening chapter of a much longer journey. At 90 years old, Charles Duke is not trying to convince everyone to agree with him. He simply feels responsible to speak honestly while he still can. He has walked on another world, felt the emptiness that followed, and found peace in a path that science alone could not provide. Whether people see UFOs as visitors, illusions, or mysteries yet to be solved, Duke's message remains the same. Exploration may change where we stand, but it does not automatically answer why we are here. And for Duke, that question matters more than anything he ever saw in the sky. At 90 years old, Apollo 16 astronaut Charles Duke is looking back on a life that carried him farther from Earth than almost anyone who has ever lived. Once the youngest human to walk on the Moon, Duke now speaks less about fame and more about meaning, belief, and the unanswered questions that followed him home from space. His reflections are shaped not only by history, but by decades of personal struggle, faith, and contemplation. Duke's voice is already part of one of humanity's most iconic moments. During Apollo 11, while Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin prepared to make their first steps, it was Duke who served as the calm link between mission control and the lunar surface. When the words, "The Eagle has landed," echoed across the world, Duke answered from Houston, confirming that humanity had reached another world. At the time, he was still waiting for his own chance, carrying the weight of responsibility while quietly hoping his moment would come. That moment arrived 3 years later, when Apollo 16 touched down in the Descartes Highlands. Duke remembers the shock of reality almost immediately. The moon was not peaceful or poetic. It was blindingly bright, brutally sharp, and utterly silent. The sky above was not filled with stars the way people imagine, but an endless black void that felt overwhelming and absolute. Even Earth, often pictured as hanging overhead, was not easily visible through the restrictive helmets the astronauts wore. Despite the excitement, Duke says he did not pause to reflect deeply while he was there. His mind was focused on checklists, experiments, and survival. Only later did the emotional weight begin to surface. Returning to Earth did not bring the peace he expected. Instead, he felt restless, distant from his family, and unsure why achieving the impossible had left him feeling empty. That inner conflict intensified in the years after Apollo. Duke describes himself at the time as a Christian in name only, carrying belief without connection. His marriage was strained, and success offered no answers. Everything changed when his wife experienced a powerful spiritual transformation in the mid-1970s. 2 years later, Duke made his own decision to commit fully to his faith. He says that choice saved his marriage and gave him a sense of peace he had never known, even on the moon. That spiritual shift reshaped how Duke viewed the universe. As conversations about UFOs grew louder in popular culture, he began sharing a perspective that surprised many. Duke does not deny the reality of unidentified aerial phenomena. Instead, he rejects the idea that they are extraterrestrial visitors. He believes their behavior defies physical explanation, pointing to reports of objects making instantaneous turns at extreme speeds that no human-made craft could survive. For Duke, these sightings are not evidence of aliens, but something far older and more deceptive. Rooted in his Christian worldview, he believes such phenomena are spiritual in nature, manifestations meant to mislead and distract. He often cites the biblical idea that evil can present itself as light, appearing fascinating while pulling people away from deeper truth. He understands that many laugh at his views, but he says he no longer feels the need for approval. In Duke's eyes, fascination with UFOs has become a modern substitute for meaning, especially in a world that struggles with faith. He believes people search the skies for answers because they are uncomfortable looking inward. Having seen Earth from afar and walked on another world, Duke says technological achievement alone cannot fill the human